Listen to me. If there was a wise man who would ever think of this, they would say in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. For I am the man himself.
What is going on? It's Saturday evening, and we're here. This is the Club of the Man 1993. This is my review of last night's episode of Friday Night SmackDown, the July 26th, 2024 edition. It was actually a taped show. It taking place in Omaha, Nebraska. Just like last week's show, and the reason why was because they were away on a tour in Japan. I think that's the reason why that SmackDown was taped this week. I didn't know that actually until I looked up the notes again on Cage Side Seats. And quite frankly, it showed that this was a taped show. Can I be honest? Nothing really happened in this episode of SmackDown. It's kind of boring. I mean, it wasn't horrible. It's just like, it was just there. A very skippable episode. Honestly, I've always said I like to keep things consistent. If I had not reviewed Raw this week, I probably would have skipped this week's review of SmackDown. Again, it just, nothing happened. I'm really going to just fly through this results real quick. It felt like a house show. It felt like watching a solid house show with things that like were what they were. Not horrible, but it's like, I'm not going to remember this episode. It was a very skippable episode of SmackDown. But we're going to get right into it. I'm going to talk about it really quick. And we will go from there and roll on. And this will be also the last review of SmackDown, not just for SummerSlam, but the last wrestling review until the next time we come back. We will have activated Twitter and Instagram accounts again for the channel, as I am ending my hiatus, maybe even tonight or tomorrow, and I will get back on there and I will release the new handles for you guys to follow as well. I'm hoping to get the same names as before. If not, then I will let you know what they are instead, and I will be doing some updates on some things on the channel to reflect that as well. But anyways, SmackDown this week. Most of the show was centered around this Gauntlet match for the for number one contendership for the tag team titles. Which, again, as I keep saying, I still think they shouldn't have split up the tag titles, if I'm being honest. Again, I love that DIY have the titles, but it's like, they feel like afterthoughts. I don't think, and they're not going to be defended at SummerSlam. The tag team wrestling has gotten so flat. Like, they're doing no favors, in my opinion, trying to progress the tag team division again. I still think they should have had, for both the men and the women. Because I keep saying, why did you give Alba Fire and Isla Dawn the titles when they're barely on TV to begin with? And, I still think they should not have split the men's tag titles. There's not enough depth in the division. Like, we'll talk about the Gauntlet match when we get to it. But like, so the show started off, the Bloodline was advertised. And you knew from the beginning the Bloodline were going to win the match to fight DIY next week. And I'm pretty sure they're probably going to win the tag titles off of DIY. And, they had a promo where it was originally supposed to be Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, but Tonga Loa had a eye injury. And since they can't compete, they were going to be pulled from the Gauntlet match. But then they were able to talk Nick Aldis into having Jacob Fatu wrestle instead. And he's like, you know what? I'm fine with that. So it would be Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga representing the Bloodline. The match opened up with the show opened up though with a match with LA Knight and Santos Escobar. Just a typical match to give LA Knight like one last win. Getting some momentum going to his U.S. title match with Logan Paul next Saturday. I said this last week or so ago too, how I feel like Legado del Fantasma has really been reduced to a low card act. Even though I feel like there is the talent in there, Santos Escobar himself as well now feels like a low card act, which that again is very disappointing. I feel like he really didn't benefit at all from the feud he had with Rey. And I was hoping his WrestleMania match would put him over, but I still hate that they used that match to bring in like the celebrity for the show with Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson. I'm like, felt out of place. I'm just disappointed with with where Santos is now. I would have thought Santos would have been on a different level, because Triple H clearly does like Santos, and I've always been a fan of Santos, but I feel like his momentum's really died off, unfortunately. Knight, though, does win despite Logan Paul trying to interfere, but afterwards, though, Logan Paul and Santos Escobar join forces and beat down on LA Knight, and there was that. Naomi was interviewed backstage when Bianca and Jade roll up, and the three of them catch up before we go to break. She was basically being interviewed about Blair Davenport. I guess their feud's continuing. Logan Paul had an interview, hyped up what just happened, and he said it was the first of a 3-course meal for LA Knight, basically saying blah, 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 I'm going to win. And he's got a big surprise for us as well for Summerslam, I believe he said. Wherever it is, I don't know. And I don't care. But I am excited for his match still. Then we had Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair call out Alba Fire and Isla Dawn before they had like a brawl, and I think I remember Bianca and Jade came out on top, and they're finally having their tag title rematch next week. Like I said, they've really dragged their feet with this thing. And like I said, they've done nothing with Alba Fire and Isla Dawn as women's tag champs. I get you gave them a moment in their home countries, but again, why did you put the titles on them if, again, you barely have them on TV, and when you get the titles, they're still not on TV. At least with Bianca and Jade, they were always on TV, and they actually were kind of making those titles mean something and not just props. I've been saying this, and everybody keeps saying this too. It's like this women's tag title scene, it just really isn't doing anything for anybody. It's never worked out since they first brought them in. I still think they should just drop them. It's just not working. I'm sorry, it's not. We had a backstage also where Nia and Tiffany are chatting. Tiffany's upset about Bayley ruining her briefcase last week, and they're going to take care of them in the main event later on the show. And then we had the Gauntlet match took up most of the show for number contendership. So it was the Bloodline, which was Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. The Street Profits, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins, which I have to do a video. Well, I'm not going to do a video yet. About the stuff with Bobby Lashley apparently maybe leaving WWE. I'll only do a video on that if Bobby does in fact leave. Or if it is confirmed, Bobby definitely is leaving. Because it hasn't been confirmed yet. Pretty deadly. Legado del Fantasma's Angel Garza and Alberto Carrillo. The club, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. And the random tag team of Apollo Crews and Baron Corbin. Most of the Gauntlet match, the Street Profits was in it. Which, even the Street Profits to me have kind of like fallen off the relevancy. They've got nothing really going for them right now, unfortunately. None of these tag teams do. And especially if Bobby Lashley does leave, where does that leave the Street Profits? Heck, where does that leave B-Fab? I'm sorry, but if B-Fab didn't have the Street Profits, I think B-Fab would have had a job right now. Because Hit Row didn't work out, unfortunately. And I think Ashante the Adonis went back to NXT with Cedric Alexander. I'm not 100% sure if that's true, but I've heard they've been working some NXT shows. So yeah, that's a shame there. But yeah, none of these tag teams, like again, like Gallows and Anderson still are like nowhere close. Pretty Deadly, still not a fan of them. And then there's Apollo Crews and Baron Corbin. Why are these guys a tag team? Like, it feels that there's literally like no explanation of story, other than the fact that they both recently had beef with Legado del Fantasma, and they lost. It's like when they just randomly put Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode together. I mean, they briefly had a good spell, but I don't know. It was just random. And there really has been no story with Baron Corbin back on the main roster. He hasn't really done much. And Apollo, I've been saying for a while, Apollo, I'm surprised is still here. But they got one elimination. They eliminated Legado del Fantasma. Fine. Street Profits went through everyone else except for the Bloodline. They had a good, a good showing against them. They actually made it look like they could have beaten them, but then unfortunately, of course, it was not enough as Jacob Fatu hits a moonsault on Montez Ford, and they're most likely going to destroy DIY next week and win the tag titles, unfortunately. That's a bummer. Oh yeah, then we also had this random segment with A-Town Down Under and Terence Crawford from UFC. Not familiar with him, or the fact that I heard he's 40-0. I thought they were setting up for like a celebrity match with Terence Crawford and Austin Theory. But this may have just been like a segment or an advertisement. I think they were saying he has an upcoming match, I think it is. May have just been that, but it really wasn't anything special. It was random. And plus two, who wants to see Austin Theory be the one to be the representative in a celebrity match right now, if I'm being honest. Andrade was interviewed backstage. He got interrupted by... First we did get a video package of Cody Rhodes reflecting on his 2024 and he did all this. He has all these allies by his side and how they've been destroyed, though, by the Bloodline. And then he wants to have a one-to-one with Solo next week. Solo ended the show saying he accepted it, basically, but he also dissed on Roman Reigns again, which Roman's going to be coming back at SummerSlam during that main event match. Again, Andrade is being interviewed, and basically him and Carmelo were talking smack to each other. Carmelo claims that he had an off night, and he claims he can definitely beat Andrade. So they agreed to have another match against each other, which is fine by me, because it was awesome. And then the main event was Bayley and Mia Yim versus Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton. Before the match, when Mia made her way out, Nia and Tiffany beat her down. Although I don't know why it took a while for Bayley to come out, because Bayley wrestled most of the match 2-on-1. Mia got in there, but unfortunately eventually led to Nia Jax winning with her Annihilator drop onto Bayley. And that's how the show ended. Well, besides Solo Sikoa also doing his mob looking promo, which always do look cool when he does them. But that was it. Like I said, nothing really happened. A filler episode that also, like I said, it was taped, so it felt like watching a house show. Not much really happened, just sort of like, hey, give this guy one last win before SummerSlam. Hey, give us one last win before SummerSlam. And then set up 2 tag title matches for SmackDown next week. With DIY and the Bloodline, which I'm pretty sure... I can see both set the tag title switch next week. I think DIY will drop the tag titles to the Bloodline, sadly. I also think, which will be sad because they've really... It still feels like they're just getting started, too, with those tag titles. Unless if Incal down interfere and instead for eventual triple threat, because the Bloodline did attack them also, but... Who knows? And Alba Fire and Isla Dawn versus Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. So, again, kind of flat episode. Gave it a C. Wasn't horrible. It's just nothing happened. Was what it was. Skippable episode of SmackDown. And I went 15 minutes too. I didn't think I would go that long, but I did. But that's what we do it, guys. Again, next time we do Raw and SmackDown reviews, which will be after SummerSlam, I will have the new channels or social media pages activated on Twitter and Instagram. Again, hopefully the same names as before. If not, they'll have to make some changes. So, guys, we're going to toss to SmackDown. Was it skippable for you as well? What do you think? You guys toss down in the comments section below. And be sure also, as always, to slap a like on the video. Subscribe for more content on my channel. Follow me on TikTok at the Club of the Man 1993. Next time I will be advertising Twitter and Instagram as well. And until then, guys, I'm checking out. I'll catch y'all later. Have a great rest of your night. And do not forget, in order to be superior to the man, you've got to be the man. And for I am the man himself. And that is not just an opinion, my friends. That is a fact of life. Yeah!